My aunt and uncle asked me to make them a fruit bowl. They left the design up to me, except they wanted a darker color to contrast a light countertop where they're going to put it. So if you want to see how I made it and what the design turned out to be, stick around. I started this bowl off by making what I'm calling the feature ring. It's the ring that will add spice to the bowl. It is made up of maple and red marble wood segments. Here I am resawing the maple to the correct thickness. The ring is going to be 1/2 inch thick and made up of 58 pieces. Half of those will be maple, the other half will be red marble wood. For the conditions that this ring had to meet, the segments need to be cut at a 3.1 degree angle. So instead of angling my miter gauge, I tilted the saw blade. I chose 58 pieces because I wanted the pieces to be 1/2 inch square and the ring to have a diameter of 11.5 inches. And at 58 pieces, the segments were cut just about 1/2 inch in length. Because of the accuracy of the tilting blade, I was able to glue the ring up in a whole ring on the first try. For the glue up, I like to use hose clamps because they are cheap and apply a good amount of force. Also, they can clamp thin rings, unlike large band clamps. With the feature ring all set up, I can move on to the rings that will make up the main part of the bowl. They are made out of cherry, and the top ring is 1/2 inch thick, and the bottom 3 rings are going to be 7/8 of an inch thick. Right now, I am ripping down the boards to the proper width to give me the wall thickness I need for the rings. The body rings are made up of 12 segments, cut at 15 degree angles on each side of the segment. This is what I standardly do for non-feature rings. With all of the rings done, I can move on to the base. I want it to be made out of primarily red marble wood, with maple strips between the segments. In order for all of the pieces to come perfectly to the middle, I had to glue each segment to the maple first. In order to stop the segments from slipping, I put a clamp directly behind it to act as a stop. After the glue setup, I could sand the maple flush to the red marble wood. Once sanded flush, I could glue the pie pieces together using angled cawls. This went pretty well. Unfortunately, a couple of times, the hot glue that I used to connect the cawls broke before I was done clamping. To disguise any imperfections with the points meeting up, I left the edges of the halves without maple strips to start. Then, after sanded flat, I could add a strip that went all the way across. Surrounding the feature ring, I put 2 1/8 inch Wenge rings. With all of the rings glued up, I can start turning. I prefer to turn the outside first and get that shape exactly how I want it, as that is the shape you will see the most. I find the shape comes out of the wood. I had no intention of making the bottom fluted, however, it appeared as I was turning, and I liked it and kept it. I like to turn the bowl in steps, getting it to the correct shape a little piece at a time. Once I have the shape that I want, I can come over with either the flat part of the square flat chisel or with a scraper and smooth it out. Once the outside is done, I can turn the inside to get the correct thickness, referencing off of the outside.
So I ran into a little bit of a problem. It seems as though the bottom ring is slightly off center, which normally wouldn't be a big issue because you could just turn it down. But the problem is, as you can see here, it went through. I turned the outside too thin, not knowing that I had this flaw. So what I'm gonna do is cut right here, cut the bowl in half, and then turn down this section to get rid of that flaw. Make another ring, add it on, and return it. The solution I've come up with is to completely cut out the ring that has the flaws in it. And to do that, I have it obviously mounted on the lathe. And I have a waste block attached to the tailstock, and it is hot glued onto the bowl, so that when I cut through, this part, the part that I'm cutting off that I'm going to keep, is not going to go shooting out.
Now I need to make a new ring. I decided to use this mistake as an opportunity to put Wenge between the base and the cherry. This I found gave the bowl a bit more depth and a little bit more visual interest, so that way it wasn't just the base to the big rings. There was a bit of a transition. Now I can glue the new ring to the Wenge that has been glued to the base. With the repair made, it's just a matter of turning the new ring down to the shape that I had before. For finish, I'm using mineral oil, then a coat of beeswax, because this is going to be a fruit bowl and it needs to be food safe. With the finish applied, I can turn down the waste block to a nub and then cut it off. To get the little piece off that's left, I just use a chisel and pare away at it. I like to put cork on the bottom of my bowls because it's very nice to put on countertops and won't scratch any of them. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe.